What if Megan Thee Stallion didn't find out about Klay Thompson cheating through messages, but through something way worse? Why are people saying he allegedly kept a physical diary, writing down everything he was doing behind her back? And how does a grown man end up exposing himself in a way nobody expected? So this is where it starts getting unbelievable, because people aren't saying Megan Thee Stallion found texts or DMs. They're saying she allegedly found a physical diary belonging to Klay Thompson, like an actual notebook. And not just any notebook, a black composition book. Now pause for a second, because this isn't normal. We're not talking about screenshots or leaks. People are claiming this man was literally writing things down, logging his own behavior like it was some kind of journal. And if that sounds wild, it gets worse. According to what's being said online, this diary didn't just exist. It had entries where he allegedly talked about his lifestyle, his relationships, and even hinted at struggling with staying loyal. Again, nothing here is confirmed, but the idea alone, that's what has people locked in right now. And here's why this part matters. Because if Megan really came across something like that, it would explain why everything escalated so fast. It wouldn't just be suspicion anymore, it would feel like proof, written in his own words. And that's why people keep saying this situation didn't unfold slowly, it exploded. Because if you find something like that, you're not sitting on it, you're reacting. But here's where it gets even more uncomfortable. Because once people started looking into this diary, they realized this might not even be something new. And this is where it gets even crazier. Because people are saying this alleged diary didn't just start recently. It might go way back, like years back. There are claims online that entries from around 2018 and 2019 were already circulating before, where Klay Thompson was supposedly writing about his lifestyle, his relationships, and struggling to stay loyal. Now again, none of this is confirmed, but the reason it's blowing up now is because of the timing. If those older entries are real, and something similar showed up recently, that makes people think this wasn't a one-time situation. It starts looking like a pattern that's been there for years, and that's what has everyone talking. Because if you connect that to what Megan Thee Stallion allegedly found, it raises a bigger question. Did she just discover something new, or did she walk into something that had already been going on for a long time? And when people started reading those alleged entries, it made things even more uncomfortable. Because it wasn't just casual writing, it was him supposedly describing his mindset, talking about balancing his career with what he called his off-court lifestyle. And the way it was written, people are saying it didn't sound like someone confused. It sounded like someone aware of what they were doing. And if that's even partly true, it changes everything. Because now it's not just about one relationship. It's about a behavior that might have been there long before Megan was even in the picture. And that's exactly why this next part hit even harder. Because once people saw how serious things were between them, it made the whole situation feel even worse.
Megan Thee Stallion and Klay Thompson are going their separate ways. On April 25th, the rapper takes to her Instagram stories to call out the NBA player for his alleged infidelity.
And this is where it really starts to hit. Because when you look at how serious things seemed between Megan Thee Stallion and Klay Thompson, it doesn't line up with everything people are now saying about this alleged diary. From the outside, it looked like a real relationship. He was buying her gifts. People were talking about a house, a boat, even a Bentley. Like this wasn't low effort at all. And at the same time, Megan was showing up too, going to games, being around his family, putting in that time and energy. So when people hear that there might have been something completely different going on behind the scenes, it makes the whole situation feel way more uncomfortable. Because think about it. If someone is doing all of that publicly but privately, they're allegedly writing in a diary about living a completely different lifestyle. That's two different realities happening at once. And that's what people can't wrap their heads around right now. And this is where those alleged entries really started getting attention. Because some of them, if real, don't just talk about relationships. They talk about mindset. Like him supposedly describing his lifestyle, calling himself out, even hinting at not being able to balance everything. And people online are like, how do you write all of that down and still continue doing it? And that's the part that makes this feel less like a mistake and more like a pattern people are trying to understand. Not confirmed, but definitely being talked about everywhere. And once people started seeing it that way, the focus shifted again. Because now it wasn't just about what Megan found. It was about how long something like this could have been going on without anyone realizing. And this is where it goes from messy to just straight confusing. Because some of those alleged entries people are talking about, they don't just hint at cheating. They go deeper into how Klay Thompson supposedly saw his own lifestyle, like describing himself, questioning his behavior, even writing about balancing basketball with what he called his off-court life. Now again, we're going off what's being shared online, nothing confirmed. But if those writings are real, it doesn't sound like someone who didn't know what they were doing. It sounds like someone fully aware, just not stopping. And that's what people keep pointing out. Because in one part, he's allegedly reflecting, sounding almost self-aware. And then in another, he's talking about continuing the same behavior. And that contrast? That's what has people stuck on this story. It's like, how do you recognize the problem and still move the same way? And this is where people start asking a different question. Not just what happened between him and Megan Thee Stallion, but what kind of mindset leads to something like this in the first place? Because if everything looked serious on the outside, and something completely different was being written privately, then it's not just about one moment. It becomes about a pattern that might have been there the whole time. And once that idea starts spreading, it changes how people see everything.
The message reads, cheating, had me around your whole family playing house, got cold feet. Holding you down through all of your horrible mood swings and treatment towards me during your basketball season. Now you don't know if you can be monogamous. I need a real break after this one.
Because now they're not just reacting to the breakup, they're trying to understand the behavior behind it. And this is where it starts getting even more uncomfortable, because people aren't just focused on the diary anymore. They're connecting it back to what Megan Thee Stallion allegedly went through in the relationship. Because if those entries are even partly real, it suggests she might have been dealing with something way deeper than just a one-time situation. And that's why her reaction is making more sense to people now. Because think about it. If you find something like that, pages of someone basically documenting behavior you didn't fully know about, that doesn't feel like a small issue, that feels like everything hitting at once. And at the same time, people are bringing up how she was showing up publicly, supporting Klay Thompson, being around his family, investing in the relationship like it was real. So when you put that next to what's being said about this diary, it creates a huge contrast. Because now it looks like she was building something serious, while something completely different might have been happening behind the scenes. Again, all alleged, but that's the picture people are putting together right now. And that's what's making this situation hit harder than a normal breakup. Because it's not just he did something wrong, it's the idea that everything might not have been what it seemed from the start. And once people started looking at it like that, the conversation shifted again. Because now it's not just about what she found, it's about what she might have realized in that moment. And this is where people really start debating what actually happened, because the biggest question now is how Megan Thee Stallion even found this alleged diary in the first place. Like, was it something she came across by accident, or was there already suspicion before that? Because if you think about it, finding something like that doesn't just happen out of nowhere. And according to what's being said online, some people believe she might have found it while things were already feeling off. Others are saying it could have been left behind or overlooked. And when she finally saw it, that's when everything clicked at once. Again, nothing confirmed, but those are the theories going around. And that's why people keep coming back to her reaction. Because the way everything came out publicly didn't feel slow or controlled. It felt immediate, like something was discovered, and instead of processing it quietly, it all came out right then. And if that's true, it explains a lot. Because finding messages is one thing, but finding pages of someone writing things down in their own words, that hits differently. It feels more real, more direct. And that's what makes this situation stand out from everything else people have seen before. Because this isn't just screenshots or rumors, it's the idea that someone might have documented their own behavior over time. And once that idea started spreading, the story got even bigger. Because now people aren't just reacting to what happened, they're reacting to how unusual this whole situation actually is. And this is where the story really takes a turn. Because once people accepted that this alleged diary might be real, they started asking a different question. Why would Klay Thompson even write something like that in the first place? Like, we're not talking about notes on a phone, we're talking about a physical notebook. And that's what makes this feel so strange to people. Because if someone is actually writing down their thoughts, reflecting, even calling themselves out, you'd expect that to lead to change. But according to what's being shared, that doesn't seem to be what happened. Instead, it sounds like two things were happening at once. On one side, there's this self-awareness in the writing, and on the other, the behavior people are talking about didn't stop. And that contrast? That's what has everyone confused right now.
The rapper also tells E! News in an April 25th statement, "I've made the decision to end my relationship with Klay. Trust, fidelity, and respect are non-negotiable for me in a relationship."
Because now it's not just about whether he allegedly cheated, it's about the mindset behind it. Like, how do you recognize something about yourself, write it down, and still continue moving the same way? That's the part people keep coming back to. And when you connect that to what Megan Thee Stallion was experiencing publicly, supporting him, being present, taking the relationship seriously, it creates a gap that's hard to ignore. And that's why this situation feels bigger than just a breakup. because now people are trying to understand not just what happened, but how something like this even unfolds in the first place. And this is where the story starts getting even more complicated, because while everyone is focused on this alleged diary, people didn't forget about the other rumors that were already circulating, especially the ones linking Klay Thompson to Lexie Brown. Now again, nothing here is confirmed, but once the diary conversation started, people went right back to that and started connecting everything together. Because from the internet's perspective, it's not just one thing, it's the timing of everything happening at once. The rumors about another woman, the alleged diary entries, and then Megan Thee Stallion going public almost immediately. And when you line that up, it creates a narrative that feels bigger than just one moment. And that's what people are running with right now. Not saying it's proven, but saying it fits. And once something fits in the internet's mind, it spreads fast. At the same time, people are also pointing out how unusual this whole situation is. Because even in celebrity drama, you don't usually hear about someone allegedly keeping a written record of their own behavior. That alone makes this stand out. And when you add in the possibility that there could have been another person involved, it turns this from a messy breakup into something people are trying to fully piece together. And that's why the conversation hasn't slowed down. Because every time one detail comes out, it connects to something else and makes people feel like there's still more to uncover. And at this point, the story kind of takes on a life of its own. Because now it's not just about what Megan Thee Stallion allegedly found. It's about everything people think that discovery means. The diary, the rumors, the timing, it all starts getting combined into one version of the story that keeps spreading. And you can see it happening in real time. People pulling up old moments of Megan and Klay Thompson together, clips from games, appearances, even small interactions. And now they're looking at all of it differently. Like, wait, was everything really how it looked back then? At the same time, the alleged connection to Lexie Brown keeps getting brought up again and again. Not because there's clear proof, but because the timing, the follow activity, and everything else happening around it makes people feel like it could be connected. And once the internet starts thinking like that, it fills in the gaps on its own. Some people believe the diary explains everything, others think there's still more that hasn't come out yet. But either way, everyone is trying to build a complete picture from pieces that aren't fully confirmed. And that's what makes this situation feel so different, because it's not just one clear story, it's multiple layers of rumors, reactions, and interpretations all happening at the same time. And once it reaches that point, it's not just about what happened anymore. It's about what people believe happened, and that's what keeps it going. And when you step back from all the rumors, this is the part that really stands out.
She continues, I'm taking this time to prioritize myself and move ahead with peace and clarity. E! News has reached out to a rep for Klay for comment, but hasn't yet heard back.
Because whether the diary is fully real or not, what Megan Thee Stallion said and how she reacted makes people feel like something serious happened behind the scenes. This didn't look like a slow breakup, it looked like a breaking point, and that's why people keep going back to that moment. Because if she really discovered something that felt undeniable to her, it explains why everything came out the way it did. No delay, no filtering, just immediate reaction. At the same time, people are still looking at Klay Thompson's side of it too. Because if even part of those alleged entries reflect his mindset, then this situation becomes less about one moment and more about a pattern people are trying to understand. Again, nothing confirmed, but that's the conversation happening right now. And that's what keeps this from feeling simple. Because it's not just this happened and it's over. It's people trying to understand how something that looked so solid publicly could have so many layers behind it. And once you start thinking about it like that, it stops being just about a breakup and starts becoming about everything that led up to it. And that's why even now, people don't feel like they've heard the full story yet. And that's exactly why this still doesn't feel finished. Because even with everything people are saying, it feels like there are still pieces missing. Like, yeah, there's the alleged diary, the rumors, the timing of how Megan Thee Stallion reacted. But the full picture, it still feels incomplete. And that's what keeps people coming back to it. Because now it's not just about whether Klay Thompson did something wrong. It's about understanding what actually led to that moment. Was this something that built up over time? Or did everything really fall apart all at once? At the same time, the conversation has moved beyond just the two of them. Now people are debating the meaning behind it all. Some are saying the alleged diary explains everything. Others think it's just one piece of a bigger situation that hasn't fully come out yet. And then you've got the rumors about Lexie Brown still floating around, adding even more layers to something that already feels complicated. And once a story reaches this point, it doesn't just fade away. It stays in the conversation, gets reanalyzed, and keeps evolving as more people add their own interpretations to it. Because in situations like this, it's not always the confirmed details that keep people watching. It's everything that still hasn't been fully explained. And that's where everything kind of lands. Not with a clear answer, but with a situation that still feels like we're only seeing part of the story. Because between what Megan Thee Stallion said, the rumors about Klay Thompson, and now this whole alleged diary situation, it doesn't feel like one moment. It feels like something that might have been building behind the scenes for a while. And then you've still got the other layers too. The rumors involving Lexie Brown, the timeline people are trying to piece together, and the fact that nothing has really been fully confirmed. It's all information, reactions, and speculation. And that's exactly why people can't stop talking about it. Because when you look at everything together, it stops feeling like a simple breakup and starts feeling like a situation where there's still more to uncover. And if you've been following this closely, you already know this didn't just start here. Because in my last videos, I broke down the moment Megan Thee Stallion first exposed Klay Thompson and confirmed the breakup, and also the part where people started connecting the dots and pointing to an alleged side piece. Those two videos explain how this whole situation even got to this point. So if you're trying to understand the full story, that's where you need to go next.